Hey everybody, this is your old pal, Uncle Hondo, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on Sports Illustrated and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. Hey, son, can you say hi to everybody? What? Say hi, everybody. Can you wave? All right. So Dexter wanted to say hi to you. There you go, D-Man. Go find Mama. All right. That's my bride. She doesn't want to be on camera this morning. She said, I don't have my makeup on. So there you go. Everybody in our family is up way too early today. But dad woke up, so everybody woke up. All right, great to have you today. Basking in the win or moving forward is the topic of today's podcast. And yes, the Raiders are already moving forward. It's like I loved being in the locker room, and I thought Devontae Adams had the best quote of the entire team. He goes, "It's not like we won a Super Bowl today." They were super excited about the win, but they understand this is a team that's just not about a win. In the past, and now this is my fifth year, there were times that a Raiders would get a big win, and then the next week you'd see a drop off. I've often equated it to playing to the level of competition. That's not this team. I've said all along, I think it's a 10-win team, and I'm not wavering on that. I said to you after the Chargers game, disappointing loss. It was a loss that they let one get away, but when they get it upset down the road, or if they do, it's a balm to this one. But I said to you then, and I'll say to you now, I've not changed my expectations one bit on this team. This is a 10-win team. And I said to you, I think it was the Thursday night. It was the Thursday night, the podcast I put up last Thursday night. I said I expected the Raiders to lose, but I would not be shocked by a win. So I'm not shocked by it. That team was good enough. I thought, and totally I'll give you my reasoning. I think that's a very good Baltimore team. I thought they would respond to a week one performance where they were played very poorly. I thought they would respond better like the Raiders did. And I think we learned a lot about the Raiders. It was a terrific win. I predicted at this point they'd be 1-1. However, I did not predict it'd be the win that they got and the loss that they got. But it doesn't matter. They're where they need to be. And they keep moving forward. And they're starting to stack up now. And we're going to get into this a little bit more. You just can't bask in one win. I thought Devontae's comments were very powerful and sent a message to the entire team. Hey, this was a great win. We're going to celebrate this win. But at the same time, we got more wins in store. All right, let's get to the next one. It comes to us from Priscilla M. Priscilla M. And Priscilla is in Encino, California. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Priscilla says, Hondo, I have a question. I know the guys were smoking cigars in the locker room after the game. I have no problem with that. But it just seems to be that they're celebrating wins in the regular season. And at some point, don't we have to move past that? What about saving cigars for playoff wins, Priscilla? I totally disagree with you, Priscilla, but I understand your point. And I want to address it this way. Whether it's uh, a cigar, whether it's a Twinkie, however they want to celebrate, wins in the National Football League are very difficult to come by. I mean, I shared this stat with you in the offseason and during the training camp. I think it's something like 75 or 78% of games in the NFL come down to one score. It is the parity that the NFL craves it. And so wins are so precious in the National Football League, so precious that they need to be celebrated, but they don't deserve to be canonized. And so, what I would say to you is, um, you never want guys to take winning for granted. I'll give you an example, and I think this is a good example. When uh, I have a friend who played for an organization that won a lot, and he would share to me that it almost just became such a business that it was, "All right, show up, win a game, get your game check." And that there didn't seem to be a lot of joy in it. And so I think there's a danger there, and there's a fine line there. I don't think you have anything to worry about with the leadership on this team, both in coaching and in players. I don't think you have anything to be worried about at all about this team, about that. But I think you can't take Priscilla the celebration away from it. I'll give you a quick example of this. Uh, my daughter, Sandra, um, I don't remember what she did, but she did something and it was really cool. And I remember saying to my dad, she was little, I said, I can't wait till she's old enough to run. I think it was her first step. I said, I can't wait till she's old enough to run and, get some motor flexibility uh, so she can ride a horse. And my dad stopped me and he said, enjoy these moments. Now, my little girl just turned 30 here a short time ago, earlier this month. And it was a great lesson to enjoy the little moments. And when you win a Super Bowl, winning a game is a little moment. It's an important moment, but it's still a little moment. And I think there is an element of learning to enjoy the moment. I'm going to tell you something. Since the whole time I've covered this Raiders, there haven't been a lot of things to enjoy. And they're not making more out of one game than what it is. But I'll tell you what else they're not doing. They're not making less out of one game than what it is. Get to the next one. It's from Jason Beaver in Portland, Oregon. Says, am I the only one stoked Andy Dalton gets to start? He's 2 years removed from significant playing time, and now the narrative is such that the Raiders must prepare 100%. No feasting on the bones of the inexperienced and ineptitude. The Panthers still have all their faults, the O-line, lack of quality skill players, defensive backfield, and now there's no young quarterback to blame for having the silver and black will visit upon, excuse me, for the havoc the silver and black will visit upon the guests at their home opener. Um, I, I don't know what you're talking about as far as am I the only one stoked? Um, I'm going to tell you this. There is no team in the NFL that can't beat another team in the NFL, but the Carolina Panthers are the worst. Doesn't mean that they're a terrible team. They spent a lot of money on some skill players, but they're not the best team. I think Andy Dalton makes them better, but I'm not changing my prediction of the Raiders win at all. They're still not a good football team. However, in the National Football League, bad teams can beat great teams when great teams don't prepare and play well. So if I would not have taken Bryce, although I want you to know this, that's not a reflection of his character as a human. He is a great kid. I would not have taken Bryce. I remember sharing with you guys, Josh McDaniels liked him, but there were several teams that liked him. I just thought and everyone said, what about Drew Brees? Both guys are small, but both guys were different. And I didn't have as many concerns about Drew just because I watched him up close almost his entire career. So I didn't have as many concerns as I did about Bryce. But if you're using the small stature, but I think Andy Dalton makes him better. I think it was a smart move by the Carolina Panthers. Although you now are in a position, what are you going to do with this kid now that you benched him? But doesn't change my prediction one bit. And you're right. He hasn't played for 2 years. He still is a savvy veteran. He's had a lot of success. And I think they're better today with Andy than they were with Bryce. But that doesn't change the fact this should be a Raiders win. And I think it will be. So there you go. Next one comes to us from Constance. Constance O. And I'm trying to see where she's from. Constance O is from Birmingham, England. Hondo, my father served in our Navy, and I got to spend a lot of time in California as a child and became a big Raider fan. Good for you, Constance O. I have a simple question that I think is pretty important. Can you tell me why the Raiders, this is an interesting one, took so long to go to the pass? Do you think it was the stare down on the sideline by Antonio Pierce with Luke Getzey? And no, that everyone's making that into a Nick Saban, Lane Kiffin moment. That's not what it was. However, I think it's, they're committed to winning. And if what you're doing isn't winning, then you have to be flexible. And if you go back and read my tweets and podcasts and everything else, I talked about when they were in uh, California, when they were playing the Chargers. Use the pass to set up the run. Use the pass to set up the run. And I think they finally. I don't think they just finally realized it. It's not like they're morons and I'm a savant. I think they finally made the adjustment and they got the win. Um, so there you go, Constance. Thank you so much. This next one comes to us from Kevin Clark in Stockton, California. Hondo, I am a lifelong Raider fan and also a follower of Jesus Christ. I know that Coach AP wants to run first, be a run first, smash mouth football team. However, the O line has not been able to open much of running lanes for our running backs. In fact, the Raiders' O line has been the ones getting their teeth kicked in. According to PFF, the Patriots have a total of 11 rushing yards before contact in 2 games. Will Coach AP need to change his run first philosophy and rely more heavily on passing game, or will he be changing the O-line player system group to open up some running lanes? I'm hoping to get to Las Vegas for a game this year. Where can I find you during the tailgating? I would love a chance to shake your hand. I'm in Lot J. I'm in Lot J about 2.5 hours before the game, just walking around. In fact, to all of you going to the game this Sunday, you can meet my beautiful bride, Shannon, and myself. We will be walking through Lot J. Looking forward to meeting so many of you and shaking your hands. And I just encourage all of Raider Nation to go to Lot J. Just go there, hang out, have a good time. The tailgating is great. The fun is great. If you're visiting from another team, go in there. Listen, Raider fans get a terrible reputation that's just not warranted. Now, I've had some people tell me, because I didn't cover them as a beat writer and know a lot about the black hole in California, that would be different. I'm not calling those people untruthful. I just find it hard to believe because I have yet to meet a Raider fan that I just did not think was salt of the earth. Now, there's some I haven't met that I'm pretty confident aren't salt of the earth, but I've never met one that hasn't demonstrated that to me. So I'll be in Lot J. All right, let's get back to your question though about do I think he'll change his philosophy? I don't think I'm not going to use those words because I don't think those words accurately portray. He wants to be a smash mouth, run the football team. Okay, he wants that. And if you go back and look at that Ravens game, once they had the lead and they had some, you saw them run the football a little bit. They got a lot of yards there at the end of the game. I think you can be a lot of different things. And I'll give you an example. Traveling from Vegas to Baltimore, I could have taken a train, could have taken an airplane, I could have driven, could have walked. And there's a lot of ways you can get to Baltimore. You can get in a bird, fly. You can get in a train, which is going to weave around. You can drive a car. Lots of different ways. At the end of the day, the Raiders are committed to winning. They want to be, at the end of the day, a smash mouth team because it's too difficult to win in this league if you can't eat the clock. You have to eat the clock. And so, what I would say to you is a little bit different. And what I would say to you is they understand that they want to be able to smash the football when they need to smash the football. And if they have to use the pass to set it up, great. Now, I think a lot of people are throwing away the offensive line far too prematurely. Anyone that, by the way, did you not see how that offensive line performed the last quarter and a half? If you go back and watch the video or listen to the audio from uh, the post game presser of AP and Gardner, and both of those pressers I mentioned, it took 6.5 quarters for the offense to find some identity. Now, I would agree with everybody that if you were to grade Colton Miller based upon his performance in his career with the first 2 games, Colton has not performed at the level that he has established. And knowing Colton, who I just absolutely think the world of, uh, salt of the earth young man, just a good kid. And I know he's not a kid, but I'm 53, so to me he's a kid. But he's a wonderful young man. Just as good of a person, a better person than player, and I think he's a great player. That said, the man missed time at the end of last season and the entirety of the offseason. He's got to get back to being who he was. That takes time. And so I understand when you are a fan and it's just I want everybody to be an all pro. Well, they're not growing all pro left tackles on trees where they can just go pick one and sign one. And you know what? They are 1-1 with him getting to where he needs to be. Okay. I thought, quite frankly, the last quarter and a half, and I talked about this in the post-game presser, I thought he looked great. Do I think he looked like old Colton? No. But you could just see him almost every play getting better. So I don't think you abandon your identity at all. I think you simply you evolve and knowing, you know, however I get to where I'm at is the purpose. So do I think you saw they didn't abandon it, but I think they went to a pass to set up the run mentality in Baltimore. It's why they won. And I think you're going to see um, more of that when it's warranted. I don't think they're going to throw away, and I don't think they should. But I think you'll see more of it when it's warranted. But I'm just going to tell everybody, take a pause. Just take a pause on the hot takes. I mean, I put out there on Twitter in the third quarter, they better do something. Or something drastic's going to have to happen. And it wasn't drastic like fire anybody, but going to have to do something. They've got to show something, and they did. And sometimes we live in a world that just, I'm old enough to remember when your refrigerator broke, you hired somebody to fix it. You didn't go out and just buy a new one. And we live in a society of let's just throw people away. Oh, we're done with them, throw them away. Well, that's not reality. It's not the real world. And the national, I mean, how many people wanted to throw, Malcolm Kuntz away? And then bam, he came on. All summer, I kept telling you, all offseason, Jakobi Bennett, Jakobi Bennett, Jakobi Bennett. I wish you could see some of the hate mail I got. Oh, you're just a fan, but shut up. I don't even know why some people listen. They just don't listen. But I kept telling you, they believe in this kid, and now look at he was phenomenal in Baltimore. He may have been the best corner on the field in the entire game. It just takes time. And sometimes we're so quick to throw people away. And just remember, people have to develop. People have to grow into it. I would hope to God that at 53, I'm a better man than I was at 50 or 40 or 30. Had a lot of kids, and I hope I'm a better dad with Dexter now than my grown children. It just sometimes we live in a your way, right away mentality. That's great when you're ordering lunch, but in the real world, there has to be that. And so I would caution you, pause the brakes a little bit. Next one comes to us from Kyle H. Hondo, I listen to your podcast every day, and I started about a week after you started. Last week, there was some people on a hot mic talking about Gardner. You never addressed it, and some have accused you of it being you. I don't know you, but I know your voice, and is very clearly not your voice. You don't have to answer this in an article or a podcast, but just for me, why don't you shut those people up? I don't need your denial. I already know it wasn't you. But if but it really angers me what they say about you. I don't have to make uh, I don't have a male figure in my life, and I actually look up to you. I have said some things to defend you, but it just makes me mad. I love the life lessons that you teach along with football and would love to learn from this personally. I know it wasn't you. I'm not asking you to even deny it, but I'd like you to teach me so I can learn from it. I'm a junior in college and hope to meet you one day. I just would like to know, why don't you address it when people say it? Kyle H. Kyle, I was in the locker room when this happened. And the people that you have to respond to who are your critics don't matter. And the people that know you don't even ask for a response. And I'm not going to address it because I figure if they're talking and lying, and by the way, anyone saying it was me is a liar. Uh, they're leaving somebody else alone. So I don't have an issue with it. I didn't feel like had a lot of people ask me or tell me to. And the only reason I even wanted to answer this is because I appreciate the way that you wrote it and you asked about a life lesson. And I am out there every day. We are providing anywhere from 12 to 18 pieces of content every day, free, and videos and work and traveling around the country. Okay. If you stop to answer your critic, then you lose sight of your vision where you're going. There's an old saying, and I believe it was by Franklin Roosevelt. Maybe it was, no, I think it was Teddy Roosevelt, about the man in the arena. You know, it's like, how many football, let's use Colton Miller, for example. A lot of people taking cheap shots at Colton Miller who've never played the game of football, ever. A lot of people took cheap shots at Gardner Minshew, never played the game of football. A lot of people took cheap shots at Jacorian Bennett, never played the game of football. Okay, it's easy when you play Madden, but playing Madden with Gardner as your quarterback isn't playing in the National Football League. Just isn't. And so you respond to people. Um, it wasn't necessary. I don't feel a need to self gratify myself by defending myself. It's just not necessary. I think my voice is pretty distinct. I do podcasts every day, more than one, and I just don't worry about that stuff. So I would just encourage you, if you're going to do anything in your life of value, you're going to have critics. Who cares? You're the man in the arena or the woman in the arena. That's you. So don't do anything. And years ago, my dad said this to me, and it was one of many great lessons that every day I thank God that he gave me the father that he did. But my dad said to me, if you're looking back at your critics, you're losing focus on what's ahead. So that's why I don't answer. I don't care. I just don't care. So there you go. Hope that helps you, buddy. And good luck. And not good luck. Congratulations on being so close to your degree. Finish. Finish strong. Next one comes to us from uh, Chase T. Got a nephew named Chase. Good name. Hi, Hondo. I appreciate your content and always keeping your coverage neutral for the Raiders. Do you think the Raiders can have a 2023 Tampa Bay Buck year where the Raiders have a cast-off quarterback like Minshew, similar to Baker, talented skill players, and a talented defense? And do you think they would re-sign Minshew to a long-term contract like Baker if they had that type of year? Chase. Well, first of all, they've got, and I talked about this the entire offseason, they've got Baker on a very favorable, they've got Gardner on a very favorable 2-year deal. Very favorable. Very, very favorable. So they're in a good spot. They're in a great spot. I absolutely think, I said this is a 10-win team. I said it when the schedule came out in May, and I said it the week before the season started when I always revisit it. I think this is absolutely a team. And then they're going to find out what they have. But I remember when they picked Brock Bowers, and I talked about, they did not have a quarterback available to them that they thought their value was anywhere near Brock Bowers. Anywhere near Brock Bowers. They thought he was a generational talent. So it didn't matter what people offered. They wanted an offer better than what they thought his value was. And his value was super high. The Raiders are a better team. Let's say they don't get to 10 wins. Let's say they get to 8. I don't think they will, but I'm just using that for the sake of this argument. They're still a better team. You don't think free agent quarterbacks will be lining up to come to a team with this defense, these skill players? No, I don't wish that on the Raiders. I root for good people. And the Raiders have 2 quarterbacks that are real, well, 3 really, because Carter Bradley's a good kid, but they have 2 good quarterbacks. Gardner Minshew right now is the best completion percentage and most yards in the National Football League. And I think there's one other stat, but because I'm not certain of it, I'm not going to say it. And he's a great guy. I root for him. I want him to do well. You should want Gardner to do well. You should want whoever. If you're a Raider fan, you should want whomever to do well. I like to see all good people do well. But clearly, I think they could be that. Clearly. Hondo, just curious, have you talked since the season got started with Tom Telesco? What's his mindset? I bet he had to be jacked after the game. This comes to us from Brendan in Colorado. Brendon. Brendan R in Colorado. I have, but none of it was on the record, so there's nothing to talk to you about. I have. And I will tell you, I was happy for him on Sunday. He would, and you know what? Wins are hard to get. And I think the world of Tom. I do. I think the world of Tom. I think he is exactly what the Raiders needed. Just he's very ethereal. He's a thinker. He's super smart. Him and Patrick Graham are almost cut out of the same mold as type of personality. Again, differences. So I said kind of the same mold. And I think it was good for him. I was happy for him. Next. I got the next 2 questions are both about Jakobi. This one is from Melissa S. Melissa S said, Hondo, there was a report of an NFL team trying to trade for Jakobi Meyers. Why do you think the Raiders didn't trade him when they could accumulate picks? Because they want to win now. I have been telling you the entire offseason, they're not rebuilding. They're not rebuilding. You may disagree with that, and that's your prerogative, but they're not rebuilding. They are in a win now mentality. I am telling you guys, and I've been telling you this for months, Mark Davis is a win now guy right now. Now, I think Mark Davis is going to live plenty more years. Okay. So I'm not implying that, oh, he's dying tomorrow, but he knows every day he's getting older. We wear watches because we're dying. And he is desperately committed to winning, desperately. And Jakobi Meyers, all of the offseason, was the best offensive player on this team. It wasn't close. Now you got to remember, Devontae was gone for a lot of it. And he is a legit wide receiver one in the National Football League. Legit. Why would you give him up on a very favorable deal? Now, there are a lot of teams that wanted him. I've shared this with you before because I know people in the Patriots organization that were livid that they let him go. Livid, not angry, livid. Jakobi is that rare player, especially at the wide receiver position. There is zero diva in him. He is a lunch pail, blue collar, just show up and go to work. That kid was raised right. He understands it. He gets it. He is a legitimate star. You don't get a lot of those in the National Football League. And when you do, you certainly don't trade them. Now, if you're rebuilding, you do, but they're not rebuilding. So there you go. Next one comes to us. This is from Talit or Talit. I apologize if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. I talked to somebody yesterday from the airline named Alina, and I said to her, I'm going to make sure I'm getting your name right because my name's Hondo. People get it. I've been called Hondu, Honda, all kinds of stuff. And I want to get people's names right. So Talit, you didn't phonetically spell it. So if I got it wrong, I apologize, but Talit A. Hey, Hondo, asking about Jakobi's involvement or lack thereof so far this season. You were saying all training camp, he was our best player on offense, but hasn't been much of a factor. Were they running plays that prioritized him, or was he getting in where he fits in? Also, about Bryce Young, do you think he could succeed in a better situation, or is he not an NFL quarterback? Thanks for all that you do for Raider Nation talent. Two great questions here. Jakobi was the best, no question about it. But some of the things that they did were predicated on being able to run the football. When you're a team that running the football is your commitment, it's your identity, it's who you are, there are things that you can do. I think the more that the Raiders are able to do some stuff, you'll see more of Jakobi. But I agree that that's a guy. But you know, I'll give you an example. Last year, he was having a great year, and there was a push to get the ball to Devontae more. And I understand that. But my point is, you should push to get the ball to who's ever open. And there were times last year where Jakobi started strong and his numbers fell off because they were almost trying to push the ball to Devontae. I mean, there were times that they were throwing the ball to Devontae in double and triple coverage. And I was literally sitting there thinking, what are you doing? I understand Devontae is a generational talent, but if he's not open, keep using Jakobi and it will open Devontae up. That's it. I just think when they're able to, even if they use the pass to set up the run, once they're able to run, I think you'll see some more of what we saw from Jakobi. So I'm very excited about his involvement. And it's only 2 games, talent. So big breath. Bryce, do I think a different team would help him? No, I don't. You guys know this because we talked a lot about it in the offseason. The people that I trust, um, the people that I respect in this business who've had success, not just picking quarterbacks, but picking quarterbacks who've had a high level of success. And they weren't in on Bo Nix this year. Those same people were not in on Bryce at all. So there you go. Good kid. Next comes to us. Hello, Uncle Hondo. My name is Britton Best from Salt Lake City, Utah. Do you think with the win in Baltimore, the coaching staff will try to be a pass first team to open the run game? I understand what they want to do later, but the identity that was shown at the end of the game was obviously the playmakers in the receiving core. Um, and then came the increase to the run. Okay, we addressed this earlier, but I still think it's a good point, Britton. I think they are committed to doing whatever. And guess what? Now that teams saw what the Raiders did to a very good Baltimore Raven team throwing the football, it's going to have to make them. If I were the Raiders, I would come out, try to establish the run. If teams are going to pound the box, then I just go to the air quicker. Go to the air quicker. Good question by you, by the way. Good question. Next one comes to us from Syracuse, New York. Uncle Hondo, solid Raiders win. Are we seeing signs of Zamir White losing snaps to Alexander Madison, considering what when it was go to goal versus the Ravens? Zoofs should have been the hammer back and jam it in, but rather Madison got the ball. Thank you, Tim and Service. I don't think you're seeing that. I think what you're seeing is people undervalued Alexander. Now, I would encourage you to go back to the podcast that I did, excuse me, when they signed Alexander as a free agent. And you can Google this. Carter Landis, one of my terrific writers, wrote an article about Alexander Madison this offseason being the steal of free agency. So let me go back to him. A lot of people poo-pooed the signing of him because remember, the uninformed just look at a stat. So when you go back and look, the Vikings lose Justin Jefferson, they lose Kirk Cousins, and so the only thing they could do is run. You may remember the Raider game where the Raiders couldn't score, but they still held them, I think, to 6 points because the Raiders were Patrick Graham was putting 9 guys in the box because Alexander Madison was their offense. So he had 500 yards rushing, no TDs, but he was going against, 7, 8, 9-man fronts. And so by only looking at stats and not watching film, people undervalued Alexander Madison. He is a legit good back. I don't think you're seeing the devaluation of Zamir White at all. I think you're seeing the understanding the valuation and justifying of the valuation of what the Raiders saw in him. I was told by somebody, and I shared this with you, that one of the strengths of Tom Telesco is he's very detail oriented, watches a ton of film. He doesn't dismiss anybody based on stats. He lets his eyes, it's one advantage he has being very ethereal, is he's a tremendous evaluator and he's patient. In fact, you're going to appreciate this. I was talking to somebody. It may have been Saturday or it could have been Sunday. It may have even been early Monday morning, but right in that window, a very successful person in the NFL who him and I are talking about another issue that I'm working on a story. And he said to me, he goes, "How do you enjoy Tom?" And I go, "I really do. I like him personally a lot. Tremendous family man, met his family. I have a lot of respect for people that are good family people and enjoy their family, love their family. But that doesn't make him a good football person." I said, "But I really like his football." And he said to me, "The greatest strength of Tom Telesco is he's the most patient man in the NFL." Now, I've not heard anyone else say that, but I thought that was a tremendous quote, and I can see it. So I think what you saw with Alexander Madison, you got to give a ton of credit to Tom Telesco, a ton of credit, and thought that was pretty good. Last one I want to address comes to us from Shane G. Shane G, and who is from Illinois. Shane G said, Hondo, you predicted the Raiders to lose, but you said you wouldn't be shocked by a win. So if you weren't shocked, what to you stood out the most in Sunday's win? Great question, Shane. I knew the Raiders were angry. I talked about it all last week. Go back and look at my podcast. Look on Tuesday. Go look at Wednesday. Go look at Thursday. They were angry. We wrote about it. The Raiders were angry, had a chip on their shoulder. Baltimore is an incredibly talented team and very well coached. And I thought going home, they were going to be angry, and they were. But their anger was almost emotional. And the anger of the Raiders was personal. I'm going to share this with you. I don't remember how old I was. I'm going to guess I was 15 or 16. And I had done some, I'll just tell you. So it was my birthday, 16 years old. It was a day. Yeah, it was my birthday. I couldn't remember if it was just before because I had a permit or just after, but it was actually my 16th birthday. I'm so excited. I go and get my driver's license. Literally, skip school that morning, get my driver's license because it's my 16th birthday. And my dad hands me the keys, and he says, "There you go, son. Drive yourself to school." Man, I was so excited. 16 years old, I didn't have my own set of wheels, but get to take dad's car. And I get in the garage and I turn the car on and I put it in reverse and bam, drove right into the garage door. I never opened it up. My dad walked out and he says, "What do we got here?" I said, "Dad, I was so excited. I was so excited. I thought, oh my God, finally my dad's going to kill me." And he goes, "Well, you should be excited. You're 16 years old. You got your driver's license." "I know, Dad, but he goes, "You think I can't replace the door?" He goes, "You were excited." He goes, "Let that be a lesson to not allow your emotions, good or bad, to help you make a bad decision." He goes, "It's no big deal." And he ended up having to get a new door, but we were able to get it up, and I drove to school that day. And it was a great lesson. The Raiders took personally what happened against the Bolts. And I saw that, and we talked about it. I thought with all the success that the Ravens had, they would have done the same. And I talked to somebody in the organization yesterday, and we were talking about the game, and we were talking about this subject right here. He goes, "I think they took it emotionally," because I shared this story with him, and I asked him, "Do you think I'm on the right track?" He goes, "I think you're totally right. I think they took it emotionally." He goes, "I think we didn't win." And they were mad at everything. And the Raiders internalized it, and there was no finger pointing. I told you guys that. I go back and watch the interview I did with Thayer Mumford in the locker room last week. He says, "We're pissed. Doesn't matter if I played well. We're pissed. We're mad at us." There was no finger pointing. That's learning how to win. Remember, you guys have heard me talk about that building a winner isn't just good draft picks and having good players. You saw on Sunday a team that's near the top and a team that wants to get to the top. And the difference was the team at the top almost had a sense of entitlement. And man, that's a destructive sense of entitlement will destroy people. You're not entitled to anything. I don't know if you follow me on social media, but if you do or don't, I like to put pictures up at social media thanking you, Raider Nation, for listening, reading, and watching what I do. Because I appreciate it. I'm not entitled to you turning in. We had almost 100,000 people since Sunday's game. I'm not entitled to that. I have to work for that. I owe it to you. And you know what? Just because we're growing and doing well, I don't get to sit back and just say, ha ha, we're doing well. No, you got to keep grinding. No sense of entitlement. I like that. This is a blue collar Raider team, and they're going to have losses this year. They're not going to run the board, but they've got that grit. It's just grit. It's just blue collar. It's like we're going to show up. We're just going to keep fighting. I love that. I love that in a football team. I love that. No entitlement. I think you saw a little bit of entitlement from the Ravens, which stunned me. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I called that one because I didn't. I thought the Ravens were going to respond exactly. And that's why I'm not a beat writer in that room. I don't know that team as well. But it was phenomenal to me. And I thought it was an absolutely terrific win by the Raiders. And now they're set up here to go on a little bit of a win streak. There you go, everybody. Thanks for sharing part of your day with me. God bless you all. Please remember, if you're a member, we put up a new members only video. Make sure you check it out. God bless y'all. Have a wonderful day. From me and Shannon and Dexter, we're praying for y'all. And I hope you have a great day. God bless you, everybody.